Friends and fellow VEDSies, welcome back to VEDS. Over the past few years, I've had kind of an unintentional series of videos in VEDS where I talk about Superman. I never planned to make a Superman video. It's just they always kind of come up, usually based off of a challenge that someone issues. Well, I'm getting ahead of it this year. I've made a video about Jimmy Olsen. I've made a video about the Superman TV show, My Adventures with Superman. I made a video with what I would want from a Superman movie. In the year of our Lord 2025, James Gunn has released, well, Warner Brothers has released James Gunn's new Superman movie. And it only makes sense for me to make a video reviewing it. I will admit, I do not have any structure to this review. I've already filmed 20 minutes, which I've scrapped because it was mostly rambling. This is why I shouldn't do a Superman video, is because my conversations get so thematic and esoteric about the character itself that it becomes something that I don't think would make sense unless you share a brain with me, which, as far as I know, none of you have come up with the technology to do that. But we're gonna take another swing at it and see if I can make a coherent video on James Gunn's Superman. I was a little bit hesitant when James Gunn was announced as the director of Superman. I liked what James Gunn did with the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. However, I think the tone of that, then the Suicide Squad movie that he did, and what I've seen of the Peacemaker show, all of those, the tone just didn't seem, in line with Superman. However, I was learning the wrong lesson from those because all of them share the same thing that Superman has going for it, kind of the main asset of those films. And that kind of key asset is that James Gunn centers everything around the character's perspective. And I think he really understands Superman's perspective in this movie. In this movie, Superman is a very good guy. He wants to do good, and he often does. He remembers random people's names who he's interacted with once because he is just so invested in the people around him. He will stop to save a squirrel during a kaiju attack because if you got super speed, might as well save everyone. That kaiju attack, I think, is very central to the film because this kaiju attacks Metropolis and Superman is trying to fight him, trying to divert damage and save as many people as he can. Then the Justice Gang comes up, and they're going to help him out, these other three superheroes. And Superman is like, I really want to find a way to get this kaiju out of the city unharmed. And then they kill him. Because the Justice Gang is not interested in that. They're interested in stopping this before there could be any collateral damage and stuff. I think that says a lot about Superman. He's a little naive. He's a little impatient. But he wants to do good. His intentions are in the right place. However, even when, his friends, his allies do something opposed to him, he's annoyed. He's frustrated with them. But he still recognizes their perspective. And it doesn't become this big, I'm going to fight these guys now because they didn't listen to me. I think that's a really key part of this character, right? He's impatient. He's kind of frustrated with a lot of things. But none of those are incompatible with his virtues. All of those make sense. His impatience is that the world isn't catching up to where he is. And I don't think he would say that because he doesn't think of himself as this great moral center, right? He actually thinks he's frustrated with himself a lot of the time. But he's impatient because the world is this unkind place and he wants the world to be kind. And his recklessness is because he's quick to solve a problem. He sees a problem and he doesn't think through his actions, but whatever that action is that he's taking is rooted in doing good. So I think his flaws and his virtues work together to create facets to this character who could simply be a paragon. I think the other way that the filmmakers do that is by contrasting him with characters. You've got the obvious one with Luthor. Say what you want about James Gunn. He's not a subtle filmmaker. In a world of flying people and dogs and, interdimensional rifts and stuff, I don't think subtlety is necessarily the currency this movie should traffic in. So we can look directly at where, Lex Luthor is like, I have a huge ego, right? And then Superman has no ego. Or where Lex Luthor is yelling about how Brain will always beat Brawn while he yells out video game cheat codes. It's not subtle. I don't think it needs to be. But I think the contrasting relationship that's more interesting is the relationship between Lois and Superman. They have a pre-established dynamic here, right? Like they don't have to figure out their dynamic. The viewer obviously will as the film goes on, but we don't have to put in a lot of legwork to introduce them. Do they fall in love? And has he told her that he's Superman? Unimportant. What's important is that those two are able to have these arguments and these discussions, and at certain times one of them is right and the other is wrong. At some points neither of them are right or neither of them are wrong. They're both making good points, and through that we are able to explore the contrasts of their character, the contrasting points of their character, and it makes both of them really interesting and really well-developed characters. I don't think the movie's perfect. I think all of James Gunn's movies have these kind of structural issues where I don't always connect with how the scenes are flowing together. Especially in this movie, there's just a long stretch in the center that becomes a little tedious. Both times I've seen it, I've kind of had this point of exhaustion at this center point, especially surrounding this action scene where Superman and the character Metamorpho are trying to break out of this pocket dimension. If you've seen the movie, I think you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, all of that probably sounds like nonsense. Which, side tangent, about Metamorpho, really love how he's used and how all the other characters are used. This doesn't feel like James Gunn is horning in a bunch of backdoor pilots. This feels like there is a well-developed world already here, and there are just all these tools that Gunn can pick out and slot in. And it feels like how people write comic books, right? Because comic books, you have this pre-established history that goes way back, and a lot of times you have a solution to a problem that's really unique and really creative and stuff based in that history. I feel like James Gunn is just supplementing in some of that history from the world of comic books. Metamorpho is a perfect example, right? Like, he sets up a problem for himself to solve with There's No Kryptonite. But there's this piece of the universe, a person who can create any element. Kryptonite is an element. I just spilled tea on myself. We're all good. Slot that character in here. I've solved the narrative problem that I created for myself in a compelling way, while also being able to introduce this character. There is a lot going on, and I think that it can maybe be a little overwhelming of an experience, especially if you don't know who these characters are. For me, I think it worked, and I would say I'm probably like 75-25% on these characters. There are definitely some side characters here who I don't know too much about. The engineer, Mr. Terrific, but I do have a leg up, I think, on most people because I do read comics, right? Like I know all about Guy Gardner. I know all about Metamorpho. I think that that could be another potential problem with the movie. Not part of my experience necessarily, though. I think the key example of why I like this movie so much comes in the second post-credits scene. So obviously, spoilers for the movie. I mean, I think I've already been spoiling things pretty liberally. Let me talk about this scene, which is non-consequential, right? I think it was actually just a deleted scene that they slapped in on the end. Mr. Terrific has kind of patched the city of Metropolis back together, right? So there's like this big like line running through it. Superman's looking at it. He's like, it's a little bit off. And this frustrates Mr. Terrific. He's like, I'm sorry it wasn't perfect. And you can tell the frustration comes from the fact that Mr. Terrific is a perfectionist. Mr. Terrific storms off. Superman goes, man, I can be such a jerk sometimes. That's the key to this version of Superman, right? Like, you look at that, I'm like, that's just a joke in a normal superhero movie. But Superman still, like, he recognizes his small part in that interaction and what was wrong with it. And he's like, I can do better. And I think that's what's so great about this Superman, especially starting out as a new character. He can do better. And I really hope that this doesn't get bogged down in a big universe, that there are 7,000 TV shows you have to keep up with to understand what Superman 2 is going to be, and that I can just sit back and enjoy this journey of a character who is already really good. Is already a really good example of a type of person to be, but is always striving to be even better. I think that is as good of a place to stop off. I could keep rambling for at least an hour, but I don't want to have to edit that down. So as rambly as this video is, we're going to just stop it here. We're going to move forward. If you have seen the new Superman movie, I would love to know what you think. And if you are curious about my thoughts of, superhero related stuff, you should check out my podcast, All New 52, where every other week, me and my friend Joe give each other comic books to talk about, ranging from the big two to indie stuff to manga to all sorts. That podcast, as always, will be linked down in the description. Friends of fellow VEDSies, I will see you tomorrow.